Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor. Hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy.
Week number 1 of OTAs in the books for the New Orleans Saints. Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints. Of course, on Twitter at Ross Jackson. Nola, good enough to join us to give some thoughts. Ross, we appreciate the time as always. How are you?
Hey, buddy, doing great. No sweat, man. Always a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Always enjoy the conversation. Ross, let's start, I guess, where everyone started, and that's the Saints offensive line. I mean, Dennis Allen had some pretty honest, blunt comments about the offensive line earlier this week, saying they feel confident in 2 out of the 5 spots. Where's your confidence currently in the New Orleans Saints offensive line?
Yeah, I think you know who 2 of those 5 spots are. Eric McCoy at center, Cesar Ruiz at right guard. But the fact of the matter is that who fits in wherever else, left tackle, right tackle, and left guard, is still kind of up in the air, and I think that a lot of that has to do with, Ryan Ramczyk in terms of what his availability may be, or probably more accurately may not be in 2024. They've been trying Trevor Penning over at right tackle, letting Taliese Fuanga get some run. And at left tackle, they're rotating different guys in terms of first team left guard. There's just nothing solid for those spots yet, and that's fine at this point in the offseason. It's OTAs. It's an opportunity for you to experiment and see where everybody can play. That basically gives you the idea of, hey, how do you get the best 5 players out there? And so I think that's what the Saints are doing right now. They're kind of experimenting, doing a little bit of information gathering to figure out, what it's going to take to get the best 5 starting offensive linemen out there to lead the way for their new scheme, their running backs, and, of course, protecting Derek Carr.
You mentioned Trevor Penning, and that's where I wanted to go next. I think a lot of people expected a position change for him this year, but I think many kind of thought they might kick him inside to guard. They move him over to right tackle. Of course, obviously we know the injury right now with Ryan Ramczyk and his future in doubt. But my question with Penning is, you've seen him over at left tackle struggle. Is there reason to believe that just the move over to the other side of the line can lead to improvement for him?
No, I don't think so. I think you have to see it, right? I think that probably more important than the position change is the new scheme more than anything else. A scheme that's going to allow him to maybe not necessarily have to be the, we call it true pass play or true pass blocking guys in which, there's no play action, no rollout, stuff like that. It's just a drop back situation. There's probably going to be a little bit less of that for the Saints. It'll still be there, but a lot of their offense is now going to include play actions, rollouts, the run game, all these other things where Trevor Penning might, excel a little bit more. I don't know that the move inside to guard was ever going to make sense. I don't know how that would help him at all, especially if footwork was an issue for him, putting him in a smaller area where footwork is kind of pivotal. Didn't feel like moving him inside was going to help that. But let him play a position that's at least familiar with what it is that he knows how to play. It's either left tackle or right tackle, gives him the opportunity to do that. But no, I wouldn't say that the position change alone should give anyone confidence that it's going to work. He's got to be able to prove that, show that, all those other things. But I think what it does is that it provides you an opportunity as a coaching staff to really start from square one with him, to be able to say, okay, you're learning a new scheme, but you're also learning a new position. So take a lot of steps back here and then rebuild the knowledge base and the foundation that will allow him to be able to hopefully take that next step.
So they have a lot of bodies, obviously, that they could fit into those spots on the interior, and they've brought in more, and Dennis Allen admitted as well, some of those guys aren't actually out there yet, but of the group that they've kind of added here, and you have Nick Saldiveri as well, but of the group they've kind of added, whether it's Lucas Patrick or Shane Lemieux or Heron or Oli Udu, any of those guys stand out as somebody that you look at and go, okay, that guy can absolutely help them now?
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, Ali Udo is a big one because he has the ability to be able to kind of be that swing tackle. He can play a lot of different positions, stuff like that. So I think that's a place where, when Taysom's under center, which is not a part of their offense that's going to go away by any means. I think Dennis Allen's pretty clear about that. Then that gives you an opportunity to have that guy out there who can help you out. I think he helps from a depth perspective too, because he can play inside and out as well as on either side. So I think that helps a ton. Shane Lemieux is coming in with veteran experience, just like Lucas Patrick. They can play, guard on either side, and then Patrick can also play at center. The Saints like having somebody that has that sort of backup center opportunity or rather flexibility. You know, they did it with Josh Andrews years ago. They did it with Nick Easton years ago, so on and so forth. So I think that those are spaces where you can, you know, certainly get some benefit when it comes to depth. And then, you know, Nick Saldiveri is a guy that I think could compete to start at left guard right alongside Lucas Patrick as well as Shane Lemieux. So those are the ones that really stand out. And then Justin Herron's another one that I think, along with Landon Young, gives you really good depth, you know, at either tackle spot. So I think that a lot of those guys probably have more impact for, you know, the second and third units and making sure you have good backups because your entire offensive line is not going to play 17 games in the NFL. It's just not going to happen. So you have to have those guys that are pretty starter quality or at least one game's worth of starter quality that can go out there and help you out. And I think there are a couple of those guys that check that box.
Which one of the draft picks stood out most to you so far, whether it be through rookie minicamp or the first week of OTAs?
I'd probably say Bub Means. Christian Boyd kind of gets the short end of the stick on this conversation because it's, you know, there's no contact and things like that. And so it's really hard to judge, you know, offensive line play and defensive line play at this stage. But I'd probably say Bub Means. You know, he's just been a guy that has consistently found himself open, that makes some really nice catches as well, has been a little bit of a terror over the middle of the field for the defensive units that he's going up against. I think he's been one of the most fun guys to watch so far and plays a flashy enough position that it's easy to see when he's excelling. You know, it's fun to watch Taliesin Fuang out there moving around, but again, hard to evaluate offensive line, defensive line play. Spencer Rattler kind of had a little bit of a step back when it got to the top of OTAs, but doesn't mean that, you know, the jury's out on him by any means after starting off really strong in rookie minicamp. But I think the guy that carried along the most successful day or pair of days for open the media from rookie minicamp to OTAs would probably be Bub Means.
Ross, we're talking with Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast. Obviously, get subscribed up if y'all have not already. He's on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola. You should definitely follow him there as well. Ross, you know, it's funny. You mentioned the line and the line play, and it's tough to gauge and all that. And I do actually wanted to ask you about the defensive line and specifically defensive tackle, but not so much the, you know, evaluation part of it, just where you kind of feel they are with their numbers, because I mean, that's a spot. The Saints have struggled stopping the run the last few years, and that's something they never struggled with. Were you surprised maybe at all that they didn't go more aggressively to kind of build up defensive tackle a little bit here this offseason?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that, absolutely. But I do think that the addition of Christian Boyd helps a little bit. I mean, he's a quintessential run stopper. Like that's absolutely his game. So I think maybe he can have a little bit of an impact for you there. Kendall Vickers, who they brought in, is another guy that's a pretty solid run stopper as well. Can play kind of that one tech spot. So I think they've added a couple of guys, but I was surprised that they didn't, you know, make, I don't want to say bigger moves and things like that, but I think maybe that they're kind of anticipating a big step forward for their interior just by nature of going into a second year within the system. Brian Brzee, Colin Saunders, Nathan Shepard, all three of those guys were brand new to the system last year. And then, you know, they lost Malcolm Roach this offseason, as well as partway through the season last year, who's playing very well against the run. So I think the biggest thing that you're looking for, and clearly the Saints are looking for, is their ability on the interior just to see a step forward in terms of the production there, just based on the fact that those guys are going to be a little bit more familiar with the system and therefore can operate a little bit more freely, add their own little ornamentation to what it is that the Saints scheme itself is asking them to do.
Couple more for you, Ross. We've made it all the way here deep into the interview now, and I haven't even asked you about the new offensive staff, which is, you know, one of the obligatory questions that everybody has to get in these days. But I would love your thoughts on how you've kind of seen them interact with the players, how that relationship is going out there on the field here early on in the offseason.
Yeah, of course, the majority of those changes happened over on the offensive side, or really all those changes happened over the offensive side. So it's been a lot of fun watching those guys while also trying to get an idea of, you know, what the new system and everything will look like. I think the thing that's most standoutish to me is the fact that you look at how vocal every one of those coaches are. Clint Kubiak, like, his on-camera persona, very different from his coaching persona. You know, you can hear him out there, you know, constantly, you know, checking in with everybody, giving corrections, communicating with the other coaches, all that. Andrew Janocko is a wonder to watch. It's really cool. He kind of has this what I think Dan Quinn over at the Washington Commanders called the other day, this crawl, walk, run type of approach in terms of, okay, we're going to learn this, then we're going to add this on top of it, then we're going to add coverages on top of it, then we're going to go into 7-on-7, then we're going to go into team drills, and all these other things. So he kind of scaffolds, if anybody else out there is a teacher. You talk about scaffolding and helping to build knowledge for people that are new to something, and that's something he does extremely well. He's a very good communicator as well. Keith Williams, the new wide receiver coach, loud, proud of his guys, but also calls them out when something didn't happen right, attention to detail, didn't happen right, do it again kind of attitude. Like, I love that. You see that really from all over this new offensive coaching staff, which kind of matches where Clancy Barone was already was after, starting with the team last year. And then John Benton, who comes in as a new offensive line coach, very much the same, meticulous, attention to detail, really helping guys out and everything every step of the way. So I would say that, will those things translate to wins? We'll have to wait and see. But, man, if you're looking for this team to improve this season, they're setting the right building blocks in place with this new coaching staff. That's for sure.
Get you out of here on this one, Ross. Earlier in the show, we were talking about Rashid Shaheed and the potential for him in this Clint Kubiak offense. What type of role do you see him, or let me ask it a different way. How do you see his role potentially expanding in a Clint Kubiak offense?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, part of it, one thing that I would love to see with him and that I wouldn't be surprised to see is just kind of getting him out in space a little bit more, finding ways to get him the ball off the snap on screens, things like that. The jet sweep kind of went away for him after, that was kind of the big thing that threw him onto the scene up against the Cincinnati Bengals a couple of years ago. And all of a sudden there was just none of that last year. And so I think that, a bit of that, which also helps you add in a little bit of that jet motion as well, to where you don't actually hand the ball off on them to them, but it creates opportunities to take the ball other places because of where the defense's eyes go, knowing that that's something that they can do with Rashid Shaheed. So I'm looking forward to seeing the creative ways they go about it. I know a lot of people have kind of gone to oh yeah, he's going to be the next Deebo Samuel. I'm not super sure about that because they're two very different players. But I think in terms of the principle of treating him as a yards after catch threat, as well as a guy that can pick up some yards for you with the ball in his hands, so finding a way to do that off the snap, I think that's a little bit of what you're looking for him. So he's not going to be a guy that's going to run through people the way that Deebo Samuel does, but he definitely can be a guy that can get around people in a way that Deebo Samuel can't. So I'm looking forward to seeing the way that they utilize him. I think the biggest thing is getting him in space, getting the ball in his hands in the open areas downfield to where he can create some yards after catch, as well as what he can do down the field, not erasing the deep threat field stretcher ability that he has, and then also finding a way to get him the ball off the snap.
He's one of the guys I'm most excited actually to watch in Kubiak's offense. So that's we talked about it earlier, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it as well. So, Ross, we appreciate the time as always. Y'all subscribe up to the Locked On Saints podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Ross Jackson. Nola, always a pleasure, my man. Thank you.
Always. We appreciate you. Take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.
Hey, it's on. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.